So what I'm gonna do right now is to let you hear how the toms are gonna sound by themselves, and then I'm gonna add the overheads left and right through our royer to let you truly hear how explosive the sounds of our toms becomes. But not only that, the sound of our toms is also going to expand a little bit more beyond the pan that we already used for them. So we're going to have our rack tom at 30%, our floor tom, if I'm not mistaken, at 60%, and then we have overheads left and overheads right, which are pan 100% left and 100% right, so that we are going to hyper accentuate the stereo spread of our toms. So I'm going to let you hear only the closed microphones. All right, I'm going to let you hear only the overhead left and right. You hear by right now already how spread out the tom sounds. Now, of course, we're lacking a little bit of definition and a little bit of bottom end, which we're going to gain it back by blending in the actual direct sounds of the rack tom and the floor tom. Matter of fact, I'm going to unmute only the toms, and then I will unmute the overheads. You hear how right now we kind of like gained back all that part of the timbre of the toms that we have lost before, or that I would say it wasn't that clear. So again, we're using a conjunctions of multiple microphone techniques in order to enhance the overall sound of the drums, and in order to make it sound a little closer as if we were in the exact same room as the drummer. So again, I'm gonna let you hear the closed toms, and then I will play a little bit with the XY configuration versus the space pair. So I'm gonna start with XY. You hear the difference already. Space pair, also given the type of microphone we've chosen, brings up a little bit more the body of the drum kit. I'm gonna start unmuting now kick, snare, hats, and toms, and then I will bring back in the overhead stereo pair. All right, here we have it. XY. Space pair. Again, the two different style of microphone techniques, they do enhance two different things. I mean, we're still recording drums, but I feel that with the XY we have a better representation of the drum kit, whereas the space pair right out of the bath makes the kit sounds a little bit more sparse. So I would use it a little bit more as color rather than to trying to describe as best as I can the actual kit. Now, another thing I want to do is also to point it out that the two different microphones are picking up, given the fact that they have a different frequency response, two different things. So we have the XY, which picks up a little bit more the clarity and the brilliance of the overheads. The KM184 are generally very bright microphone, versus the R22, which by default are slightly darker than the KM184, so they bring up a little bit more of the low end of the drums. I'm gonna play again the overall kit, and I will let you hear and mute and unmute XY versus stereo pair. Okay, let's start with XY. kind of feel the space pair given the ribbon microphones helps a little bit more the overall sound of the drums. Of course, we can always play a little bit around and use both microphone techniques in order to accentuate the sound of the cymbals and bring up the sound of the drums. Now, what I was telling you before I move to our next stereo pair microphone is that we use as well a mono overhead, which generally we use it in conjunction with another stereo pair techniques, which we're going to talk shortly, called Glyn Jones. So what we could do, in case we were not going to use a third stereo pair techniques to record a drum kit, would have been to use a mono microphone, and that would work in order to gain back the center part of our drum kit. Because right now we have the first microphone, the first 122 that covers the right side of the drum kit, the second R122 that covers the left side of the drum kit. So we have a huge gap within the middle, the midsection, where the actual snare drum burst of air comes out. So we could use a mono microphone, which a matter of fact we did, and I'm going to show you this. So if we come close to the beginning, so as you can see over here, though it looks a little bit offset, we have a mono microphone. We'd use a Royer 121 pure ribbon microphone. Again, trying to find similar sounds, because we would have loved to, actually not we would have loved, we did blend them in, the mono overhead with the stereo tracks. So right now what we have is a precisely snare centered ribbon microphone, which is being pointing right at the center of the drum kit, which is going to help me to bring up a little bit more the center part of our drum kit. So I'm going to just let you hear the mono overhead, so our Royer 121, which is over here, to let you hear what this microphone is picking up, and then I can always work with this and blend them in up to taste the amount of center focus that I want between the two stereo pair. So I'm going to let you hear the Royer 121. I love the sound of this microphone. I love mono signals. I am a huge fan of how this microphone is capable of bringing up all the aggressiveness of the snare drum, and as well picking up a little bit of the rest of the kit. I'm just gonna let you hear the sound of this mono overhead in conjunction with the direct snare drum. So we're gonna have snare and the mono overhead. Without. You hear how right now the snare drum sounds much smaller without that mono source. Now we position carefully this microphone, again measuring the exact distance from the center of the snare drum and making sure that the distance of this mono overhead would meet with the exact same distance of the left pair and the right pair. So right now I'm gonna let you hear the two R22, and then I will add the mono overhead to let you hear how with only these three microphones we can start blend them in left side and a very detailed center figure of our drum kit. All right, let's go ahead and play it from here. I will insert the mono overhead. You hear how much bottom end we're picking up only from this mono source, and how much our stereo spread has come a little bit more together. So we found a part of a piece of the puzzle that kind of like helped the overall drum kit to glue together. So right now we have a very focused left, a very focused right, and also a very clear middle. I'm gonna move to a section where we have our tom fill to let you hear how great the addition of this R121 is to the overall sound of the overhead. So only left and right. With the mono overhead. So I'm gonna let you hear the difference bypassing, or actually muting and unmuting the mono overhead as we listen to the tom fill. You hear how much bottom end we have recreated. Now the drum kit sounds explosive. I mean, with these three microphones positioned in a way that they will help us out to give us a greater details of the overall explosiveness of the drum kit. Right now we can enhance each single section of the drum kit, still having a very clear focus. So in most cases, when I decided to go for a stereo pair of overheads microphone techniques, I will most likely find myself using a mono overhead in order to also have a very clear center of the drum kit. Then whatever you can do in mixing the drum kit could be also to apply a little bit more compression on this microphone in order to hyper accentuate even more the sound of the drums, of the snare drum bouncing out. I'm going to let you hear the overall kit, unmuting all my closed microphones. So now we got toms and snare and kick drum, and I'm only gonna let you hear these elements in conjunction with our mono overhead. So I'm muting the left and the right. So first close microphones, and then I will unmute the mono overhead. You hear how much the length of each single element of the drum kit got longer. So right now we have, you know, hat on the left, tom slightly on the left, floor tom on the complete right. Right now we got this very focused mono source, which is capable of representing, giving us a very detailed representation of the overall drum kit just bashing in front of our face. So I'm gonna play again from the beginning to give you a greater picture of the drum kit. First, I'm gonna let you hear only the closed microphones, and then I will unmute the mono room first. What I'll do right now, we added a very detailed, again, description of what should come right from the center. So again, with this mono overhead, we're nonetheless taking care also of the air that gets moved by the overall drum kit playing along together. And we have a very detailed source of the kind of like an overall view above the head of the drummer. What we're lacking, again, it's a little bit of stereo imaging, which we're gonna gain it back once I add back the stereo microphone. So I'm still using the stereo pair, so the outer couple of ribbon microphones. So I'm gonna let you hear right now closed microphones, kick, snare, hat, toms, plus the mono overhead, and then throughout the performance I'm going to blend in, actually add in the overhead left and right. So if you could hear the difference right now, it's an enormous difference. I mean, we got a very crystal clear center focus drum sound, plus we have a very detailed representation of what the closed microphones are doing in trying to pick up a lot of the attack and the tone out of each single part of the drum kit, and then blending in and adding in to the overall picture the overhead left and right. Right now we got an enormous stereo spread of the drum kit. What I'll do right now is play a little bit with the XY configuration versus the overhead left, right, and mono overhead to let you hear the difference and how we can differently hear and capture the sound of our drum kit. So I'm gonna start by muting the ribbon microphones, so left, right, and mono, and opening up the XY. And then I will A and B and switch between them throughout the performance so you can hear the difference. All right, let's start with the XY, and then I'll mute them throughout the performance and let you hear the left, right, and mono. Again, I'm gonna move closer to the drummer and let you hear first the XY in conjunction with the closed microphones, and then the overhead left, right, and mono overhead. So as I hope you did, the sound of these two different types of microphone techniques are completely different. Again, we need to have in mind what type of sound we are after, and everything will be production related. In other words, upon what type of music or what type of song you have to engineer and produce, you will choose the right microphone configuration and position. So again, this is so far the first two overheads microphone techniques. Right now we're going to progress through, and I'm going to explain you another space pair techniques known as Glyn Jones, as the engineer that created these microphone techniques. And Glyn Jones created this very interesting microphone techniques, which has to do with a space pair of microphones. And though the position might look very odd, with only two microphones you can recreate the full sound of a drum kit. I'm gonna let you hear right now.